Welcome to another podcast of KIIF. Firstly, let me apologize, guys. Sorry I kept you guys waiting for so long. Been super busy on my side. But hey, this session's gonna be worth the wait. Mkhulu wami, which in a sense, mkhulu wako. One of the most important things as well, and one of the objectives of this part of KIIF, where we have a podcast session, is just to sort of leave jewels, wisdom, information, allow people to be part of conversations that they probably wouldn't ordinarily be around themselves. Not everybody has the opportunity to access wisdom, to access inspiration, access courage, to access just knowledge in general. This session is going to be very fruitful, given that it's one of our ancestors, hence I titled it The Living Ancestor. Without any further delay, let's get into it. Cool. Let's start somewhere where you're very comfortable. What do you feel about our current state of government? The ANC, perhaps EFF, or whatever it may be. How are you feeling?
You see, our government is not right at all. I'm a staunch member of ANC, but ANC is not right at all. The main thing now, it's stealing money. They want positions to steal money. There's these things that they call tenders. Oh, that thing, yama tender, it has killed our country. Ibulele. Nalento le PEE. Oh, okay, to some other people it works, not to some. And you've got to know who and who there in order for you to get that tender. You can't just get it.
I have heard people who are within the tender space. I've done a couple tenders myself, but I was more of a subcontractor partnered with the person who actually has the tender awarded to them. So I'm not too sure how they would have got it, but I have definitely heard from people in that industry saying that, the only way you get jobs here is if you patali chocho. What happened with you? Why would you have that opinion? Did you experience something in that light, or it's also hearsay for you?
Mina nomkhwenyana wami, we wanted a tender eFrenaging yama pavements. Hey, kula ngabona khona ukuthi whether you are an ANC member or not, if you don't know somebody, forget it. We were halfway to obtain the tender. When we went there, they said to us they needed SARS approval. I said, Eddie, look, we do have a SARS approval. Let's go and fetch it. I said to this woman, we're coming back now. When we came back, a foreigner had taken the tender. When I asked this woman said, Baba, first come, first serve. I said to her, all this paperwork for nothing. No, he came, he paid, he did everything. We lost that tender. ANC staff. Sometimes I sit, I look at the parliament guys. I don't know them. I know this one, I know that one. I know that, and that's it. The others, I don't know them. Then I question myself, bapumapi? Or it's people that went out as well, bengaziwa, bagcwele, bathole imbombayi nje is in. Animazi. And when you say something, uzobaleka la uhlala khona, they'll eliminate you.
And tenders essentially are meant to enrich society. It's supposed to actually give back to the ordinary civilian who'd like to participate in the economy more, increase his cash flow and all of that. But it's funny that it seems like we're more in poverty than we were before.
Sometimes some of us, inhliziyo zethu zibuhlungu because we were part of this. Poverty, siyalamba, but we were in the struggle. We are forgotten. It's painful, man. Yes, it's very, very painful. That's why nabantwana bethu, the education yabantwana bethu, it's horrible. Ayikho right. We fought Bantu education. We fought the language, Afrikaans. But still, where are we? We don't have the country. Land we don't have. They have the land. They have the money. What are we doing? Because there are those few that are rich, that are stealing money, that are oppressing us. Instead, kuphumelele belungu with a black government. My figure freedom, what we call freedom, in 1994. Kukhona omnye umlungu eReuters. He said to me, tell me, you people are free. Immediately masiqeda nje ukuthatha over. Having this CODESA thing that they call the best, and it's not the best, it's killing us. It says everybody who lives in South Africa is a South African. All who live in it. Just that clause is killing us.
When you say it's killing us, in what sense?
Look, you are running this country. You're black, you're nothing, you don't have money, but you keep voting these people. ANC, nonsense. Because if we can eliminate them, outvote them, I think we'll live a better life, because those guys are corrupt. Bangolile. Okay, Mr. Ramaphosa, I don't want to say president, Mr. Ramaphosa. That guy is rich. He's probably now a billionaire.
Well, can we touch on Ramaphosa actually? Because me, personally, I've never read a book on him or watched a documentary, so I actually don't really know much about him, other than the fact that he's been part of the ANC for such and such a period. But, the man himself, how he participated within our struggle, how he came to be part of the ANC and all of that.
Yeah, Ramaphosa was an Azapo, Black Consciousness Movement. We were all together there. I was one as well. They were changed from being Black Consciousness Movement to ANC. The guys that ANC couldn't change was the cream or Tsietsi machine. That one was stubborn. But most of them, balega, basizwa yiyo ANC to get out of South Africa, to go to these black states. Now, mabefika lapha, but what's Azapo? Go in, nambani nema campaign. You are ANC people. ANC was established ngaphandle. So it was easy for them to grab.
But now, if ANC was stronger outside of South Africa and most of its influence was more outside of the country, and I'm assuming because they probably were dealing with a lot of bans at the time, if they couldn't really operate within the country, how then did they still manage to then liberate us?
Exactly. Because this place was not liberated by ANC. Rest assured, it was not. This place, Afrikaans issue, was initiated by Azapo, Black Consciousness Movement. And then when ANC found that Ababilde is strides, kuma politics in South Africa, then there was that fight between the ANC and Azapo, where a lot of Azapo guys were eliminated.
I actually have taken notice of the fact that our own parties go to war with each other. I mean, based on what you just said now, I would have assumed ANC would have felt like it's great that there's another party that's contributing towards the movement, that's making strides, because at the end of the day, we share the same objective.
They don't want any other party to exist. So, like in Gaja's case, Gaja was sent by the ANC to recruit and build a party, ye-ANC. Yena, he saw it fit ukuthi ayla nyadla wa building Gata, IFP. So when ANC heard about it, they attacked Ingata. So kwaba nempi ke. This is why a lot of people died. Any party that comes up, the aim was to destroy a committee of 10.
The Committee of 10? I have never heard of the Committee of 10. Who were they and what happened to them?
When ANC came, 1994, they said, Pansingan, and they were busy fighting with Inkatha because Inkatha was well established. He wanted to be the main opposition party. Unfortunately for him, there were many. There was Pan-African Congress. Ega Sobukwe. Sobukwe was gagged. Bamkhipha eRobben Island, bamlahlela eOrange Free State emaplazi. Bamkhiphe with conditions, just like what they did to Winnie. Mandela bamlahlela le. So did they ngoSobukwe.
So that must have been around the time of the Bantustan leaders. I don't understand too much about that, but I understand they were sort of formed in a time where leaders were given an ultimatum as to either you leave and you stop pursuing this movement, or we ban you, or you face the consequences, or we turn you into a chief or something of that nature. We give you some money or some form of power.
Let me explain Bantustan. The Boer boy, on seeing that ANC is coming back, whether they like it or not, they must unban ANC. They started to choose people of their own liking. So these people were prime ministers, ezakhethwa amabhungu, to run these Bantustans. You know, these tribal things, they went for people who are chiefs, and they gave them a title, Oguti, Nena, yini eniphethe this tribe, Nena niphethe this tribe, sizonifake Pitori, ni reported to the South African government, which was whites. So when ANC came back, ANC said, all these Bantustan leaders, Committee of 10, IFP, you must abandon the ship and fall under ANC. Buthelezi said, go to hell. Then there was that fight. Azapo said, go to hell. Then there was that fight. Now, come time where they said, okay, it's going to be voting. ANC is back. They didn't want leaders that used to exist. Nobody is a leader. We all gonna vote. And we vote for ANC. No other party. That's why they had 2/3. The vultures of the ANC, those that are now squandering money, they took all the cream, like the top 5. It's people who didn't fight for what they have.
But now, when you say that they didn't fight, what do you mean by that? Because we need to remember that people can contribute towards our liberation in different ways. You know, I could be fighting intellectually in the courtroom. I could be fighting physically with guns, fighting in the sense of feeding people who are hungry and are out there fighting for us, perhaps in the sense of funding these parties.
That's the only contribution that we made. We threw stones, fighting the poor boy, getting shot. A lot of people died in 1976. They are saying it's school children. They are counting 200. No, a lot of people died. These Boer boys were shooting left, right, and center. They were removing cops on the streets, putting them aside for this big event. That's why there was a call that people should go away from streets. Amabhunu ayadubula. They were shooting at anybody that they saw on the road, especially Makala Gutuga. They were shooting left, right, and center. Bedubula this thing is bulala.
Tear gas.
Tear gas.
Yeah, I am Kulu. What you're describing there is it's a war zone. There's a wedding, they just rock up, start shooting as many people as they can. That's pretty intense to think about. There was a time like that. That was probably one of the toughest periods of the apartheid time or your experiences within the liberation.
It was painful because it tear gas all over. Children suffocated. Abantwana bomama bancane. They suffocated, they died. You know, it's painful and they are hiding it. Even the very ANC does not talk about it because they were not here. This place was not liberated by ANC. This place was liberated by Azapo because of Afrikaans. There was a big fight and then it had to spread.
I can't wrap my head around the fact that it was so intense that you could be sitting just randomly having a braai and then abantu bafike banilite.
You remember there was a time kuthiwa kukhona ama askari. Those were the people who were killing people, ama askari. It was a group paid to eliminate leaders, the ANC. But they couldn't succeed because at the time, ANC being a gaveleli, they were still underground. mabedlula sebethole kulayitiwe labafaka ibhamu bandlula ama-social gatherings mabe nithola niku-social gatherings uzobona nje ivene eziyi-2 bekunzima ndoda yo.
So kahle mkhulu, you guys were teenagers running around the streets like soldiers, and like you said, no guns, so basically just throwing stones and doing whatever you could to sort of contribute to the liberation and or sort of resist the suppression.
Yes, we were fighting because you can't just uhlala endlini knowing fully well abanye bayafa. Kukhona abantwana abancane abafayo i-tear gas. We couldn't stand i-tear gas. Bashaya i-tear gas ejardini lakini. Izongena obviously. You know Soweto houses, how they are.
You know, what I personally believe, I look at the ANC guys that were part of CODESA and even the ones that are not part of politics now. And yes, they are well off. I look at their history and I look at someone who truly did fight for the liberation of their people, who truly was willing to die for it. But after so many years of fighting and all of that, I mean, at some point you've got nothing more to give to this fight. So you cash out, in my opinion. It's almost like, okay, well, let me get my flowers for my part in this, and the next generation will pick up the baton and they'll continue to build on. They must continue to build on. They've beaten the life out of us, tortured the life out of us, interrogated the life out of us. It's time for the next Mandela to step up, the next Steve Biko to step up. Personally, that's how I feel.
That's exactly what they did, because they were offered monies. Hence, they're all rich. And then they continued with the corruption. After Mandela selected his cabinet, that cabinet that he selected, some of them were in the negotiations in CODESA. Afrikaners were saying, we don't want our children to be killed. So when you make sure ukuthi there's no fight. Meanwhile, they are promoting a fight, supporting IFP to kill. I remember Mandela was saying, we got there's a meeting. He said, we are negotiating here and our people are being killed. You, because you are still president, saying that to de Klerk, go and stop that thing because that is your monster. So IFP was quelled by de Klerk. And moreover, in the same breath, Hani died because Hani was against CODESA. Hani said, how can we go and sit down with oppressors and negotiate? What are we negotiating? The top echelon of ANC knows ukuthi ufele ini. Uhani was a fighter. Uhani was a leader. That's why he had to die. Even a friend, Chris Hani, knew. Filthy rich now. He's somewhere nobody knows where. He's out of politics and filthy rich.
Well, let's just take it back to some history a little bit. I want us to indulge on even the time before you, what led to the apartheid period and all of that. Like in the beginning, I mean, you once told me a story about a king. I forgot which king it was, but there was a king that you mentioned to me, what to give me this king. It reminded me of the Vikings. He said to me, this king invited Amapur so that they can come dine, have a good time, have some drinks and all of that. And then they secretly had weapons hidden somewhere. And then at some point, that king was like, kill them all. And it was a slaughterhouse.
Dingan, King Dingan, because of what Chaka told them when they killed Chaka. Chaka said, you people are not going to rule this country. It's going to be ruled by birds. Abendlebe ezikhanyilanga, meaning whites. He panicked when he saw Boers being free in Natal, getting places, taking in Nkomo. He decided to go, no, I must invite these people, bring them into our kraal and tell them to leave their guns outside because we are not fighting. Meanwhile, bona izpears zikhona la. Amabhunu ke abeka izinto zawo ngaphandle bagadisa ibhunu eli-1 uDerek Ace. uDerek Ace sat outside looking after the guns. baphuza utshwala wabapha amafazi uDingane badakwa abanye bathatha abafazi bolala nabo laphaya. Ithe after some time sebedakwe bonke wathi bulalana abathakathi. They started killing these whites. Then uDerrick Ace ran to the camp yamabhunu wafika wathi hey bayabulawa labantu ngale. Then amabhunu armed themselves and attacked the Zulus. Bayibiza ukuthi impi yakhona in Zulu impi yasencome. In English amabhunu athi Dingane stay. Then Dingane had to run to Swaziland where he was killed by Sobhuza, the king of the Swazis. So amabhunu abize lelo langa the 16th of December ukuthi Dingane stay. I-ANC yayijika yayibiza ngelinye igama.
Day of Reconciliation.
Yeah, the 16th of December. NgesiZulu bathi impi yasencome. They were killed like flies.
For some reason, angazi ngitholephi, but I have this story in my head where when Boers arrived, it was immediate, where they decided that, okay, we're going to conquer this land. We're going to war with these Africans that stay here. From get-go, there was friction, tension. That's my understanding of it, but it sounds like it was a bit different.
No, bebesihlelele nje amabhunu le kuma outskirts. AmaZulu aya laphaya or repossess inkomo. There was a fight. You understand?
That must have been one of the wars that you've told me about.
The Battle of Blood River. Impi yasencome. Amabhunu when they took over 1960, when this place was renamed Protectorate, South African Protectorate.
The Union.
The Union of South Africa, not Protectorate. The protectorates were Swaziland, Botswana, and Lesotho, protected by British. That Chaka or the Boers, I mean the Zulus or the Boers cannot attack those protectorates. Hence, they were never part of the Union of South Africa. The kings, King Seretse, King Sobhuza, Mushweshwe, they all went to the British to ask for protection from amabhunu namaZulu.
AmaXhosa never needed that protection because we could protect ourselves. So I'm sure I'm not the only person who has wondered what exactly then became the eventual downfall of the Xhosa nation. You explained a story to me about a woman. You trace it down to a specific woman.
They regarded her as a dreamer, and her dreams were true. She said to the Xhosas, ilanga lizawuthi nxa lila nibuyele emuva kube neenkomo indawo ibe lihlaza kube right. And the Xhosas believed that. They killed inkukhu zabo, inkomo zabo. The place was smelly. Impukane ilanga lafika la bonke belibhekile lathi. They were hungry. They went to inkomo lezi abazibulele bazama ukuretrieve inyama, and it was smelly. This is how amandla amaXhosa. This is when they started dividing them. The culprit then was Sir George Grey. He was a governor of the Cape at the time. And now amaXhosa as divided because they were fighting for ubukhosi. Because the king yamaXhosa was Ncika, the main king yamaXhosa, binguNcika. Emaculweni asewisile, page 20, inkosi eyayikhona long before inkosi zonke. When the missionaries came, bentshontsha inkomo zabantu, the missionaries. Do you hear what I'm trying to say? Abantu beBhayibheli beconvince amaXhosa ukuthi uThixo akakho omnye uThixo. Ezizinantsikeni izithandazayo amadlozi. No, that's wrong. We have a God. AmaXhosa athi siyazi umvelinqaki. Nguye ongaphezulu notata omkhulu babethandaza umvelinqaki. Kodwa thina we believe in our ancestors. But you know that's wrong. We have a jealous God who doesn't want anybody who wants to be his standard. AmaXhosa ibamba lonto. Kwaba khona amagqobhoka. This is where by destroyer in nation yamaXhosa, the British, not the Boer this time, the British. Babazela ngenye ingqondo nje ababonise nesipili yazibona sijonga diphi inkomo ezimbini. You nansi uyazibona ndimlo ndinje kanti andithi nxa emanzini emubona isithunzi akusihuyi. Now this thing imkhupha ubuso athi nayo ithi this is how bad it was. They took over.
So, given what I understand about the structure in that day, women weren't necessarily allowed to be that high up. So, how did this woman now manage to get access to our king?
It was an induna uGaika, induna. Le nduna ibinduna yenkosi. Yahamba le nduna yawuxelela inkosi ngephupho la kaNongqawuse. Yavuma bingundlambe. Now this king of ours had sons. Ufaku ngunyana omkhulu ka wenkosi. And then kwabakho unyana kaNdlambe wesibini. I've just forgotten the names. By three. They fought. Yeah, they fought. Omnye athi nam ndineenkomo zam ndinebantu bam. This is how we were broken. They fought. Lo wasuka lo mdala Faku. Wahamba wazakhela indawo le far from these. That place was called Isikisiki. And then this one wahamba wazakhela emachirheni uKheli, the second born, to Faku. Aba besavana ndithi nabo baxabana nabo. Lo waya esisky wozakhela indawo pha esisky. Lo weza ngaphansi ke yena eEastern Cape, which is umthembu. Abathembu bavela la. Ngufaku, Mampondo, nguGaika, amacirha, amachawe namacirha. Yaba ngabathembu behla baya Eastern Cape. Brothers, from a Xhosa king. He was the only king. Then kwavela ama-chief kulaba, being called chiefs because they can't be king. Ihambile inkosi bathi khotheme inkosi. So there's no king. And he was dividing, they were dividing a very, very clever nation. Very, very clever. And into yokuthi bahlale together benze into engathi court. Umuntu xenza mistake kuyiwe komkhulu kuyothethwe ezo zinto. It gave them brains lonto le, because bayincancile. Hence ubona the Zulus abawafuna amaXhosa at all.
Mkhulu, before you even continue on that note, you're gonna start something else here. Let's what were the other wars? Because right now we're talking about the Battle of Trafalgar. Or is it that was the Blood River battle that we're currently talking about? What were the other wars that you haven't mentioned yet?
Battle of Grahamstown and Battle of the Axe.
And could you just confirm for me, because I'm always having this debate, Nokaya, Mzulu. We never lost a war. True or false?
Yeah, they never beat us. Never. We never went back. They used to come with tanks. Xhosas, like I say, they're intelligent. Niyayibona laa nto inkulu ikhupha laa nto ihlanzayo. Ngenani ngaphansi. Xa izayo nilale nithi yabaca. Xa ingathi lapha idubulale le nto ningene. This is how we won. The British never defeated the Xhosas. I don't know of a war where Xhosas were defeated by British. They came with a ship and landed at the Cape. Then they went out, explored. They found what this history that they are telling us, ukuthi bathole ini nani, it's lies. There's nothing like Hottentots. There's nothing like Boscopoids. Bushmen, yes. Bushmen were in the Cape that time. Hile abatswana bayibiza ukuthi kibarwa. They were always on the run. They ended up a Kalahari desert. Laba, the Hottentots and Boscopoids, bebelenqa izilwane. What I'm trying to say here is, yabona laba bayi-2, history enzwe amabhunu to remove abantu from thinking that they own the land. There's this term yesilungu ethi extinction. A human being will never be extincted, never. Baphele kanjani labo bantu baphi if it's not Xhosas? Uyavisisa lento endithethayo. Banika amagama bathi ama-Boscopoids nama-Hottentots. Where are they now? Baphi? Instead manje basitshela ngama-Bushman ukuthi amani amakoyikoyi.
Mina bengazi ukuthi they claim ukuthi amaXhosa bewangekho.
Yeah, they say they found the Hottentots and the Boscopoids. Who are those people? Okay, siyabona ama-Bushmen abaleka eKalaral agcwele khona manje, the other side of Botswana.
So the language itself, Afrikaans, where does that come from?
It's a new language. Ifana namaZulu. Zulus. It's a new language because Chaka, the Black Napoleon, uthathe abantu baka baba wakhe abafaka umkhonto dozana la ni uZulu ni. You understand now it's a new nation. Ni uZulu because yena isenemi yakhe uZulu. Nani nonke ni uZulu. Wathi akusekho zwide la. Akusekho senza ngakhona la. Kukhona uZulu, which is me. Hence I'm saying it's a new nation he was forming. Waqala ke manje makaqeda ukuthatha labo ebahlanganisa enza uZulu qala wahlasela abeSuthu bamdefeat ngoba abeSuthu bathe hayi bagijima baya phezulu entabeni thababusiku behlisa amatshe amaZulu ashayo amatshe afa baleka. So he couldn't. What they did after that, bamxosha ngeenkomo. Suthus were clever. Bathathi inkomo eziningi bathuma abantu ukuthi hambisani le nkomo kuChaka. Wozanga sabahlasela. Wadlula. Kula ke manje kuvela khona laba abaseZimbabwe. Those people are talking Zulu because the guy that ran away from uShaka is umzilikazi. He was induna kaShaka. Wamnika amabutho. Lamabutho wakhe wahamba ebulala la ethatha abafazi nabantwana. Waze wawungena eRhodesia. This is where eqale wahlala khona umzilikazi. Uzwa lama Zimbabweans ekhuluma isiZulu. Abantwana bakaShaka labaya. So when he wanted to come to us, amaXhosa, uhlangane namabhaca, ambulala amabhaca qala before he could reach amaXhosa. Ithe emva kwamabhaca wathola amamponda ambulala. So he never went, never at all.
When it was 1994, apartheid's coming to an end, when you're looking at the political scene and what's actually happening that's not being told, when you just sum it up quickly in, one sentence or a few sentences, how would you write that story? How would you conclude what was happening at that moment?
Amabhunu bethi kuMandela, Mandela, you're old. Relax. Take your wife, hlale nomkakho, uphathe, we give you so much. uMandela died filthy rich.
And do you believe that when I look at that time and I look at, how strong our parties were and how strong some of the leaders were, and like you mentioned, the cream of, our nation been eliminated and they're no longer really in the forefront of things, do you think that we'll have another era where things come to a point where we've got another Mandela, Oliver Tambo, another Steve Biko, Chris Hani, all those guys? Do you think that our future generations have that in them?
History repeats itself. I want to see it.
Okay. In conclusion, rather, let me just ask you, in your lifetime, with all your experience with AZAP or ANC, who are the guys that you, to this day, look at and you say, you know what, these guys I vouch for. These guys are the cream that I'm talking about.
Firstly, Mbeki. Secondly, uMacozoma, uPhalo Jordan. kube yilentwana engiyibonayo ukuthi he can make a good leader. Isandla sika Malema.
Dr. Mbuyiseni. I know him. He's got an afro.
Yeah, that one. He's got brains. I sat with him. Ngiyabazi labantu engikhuluma ngabo ndiyabazi. I sat down with him, sit discuss. Uvuthiwe. Things that he says. Even the mayor, lo shonile manje. Listening to that guy. It's bad. And the things that he says, noma ungaze uyithathe leyo nto uyiphenduphendule. You see, no, this boy talks sense.